Hey everyone, Odin here. Final Fantasy is a giant franchise, with over 16 mainline games, not counting sequels or spin-offs. This series is definitely not an unknown one. This series is also my first venture into the JRPG genre. My first game being Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy has had some bangers and some stinkers. To keep this video a positive one, I'm just going to talk about my favorites. Who knows, maybe one day I will do my least favorites. To keep things within scope, I will be discussing only mainline titles, excluding MMOs, meaning they are a numbered title with exception to one game. If I did not add it to this list, I would be doing myself a disservice. It is one of my favorite games after all. Remember, if you like these videos, let's get that limit break gauge up by liking and subscribing. It helps me out a ton. Thank you. Without further ado, let's get on with it. Everyone's first Final Fantasy is more than likely one of their favorite Final Fantasies. My first was Final Fantasy X. Tidus is such a unique character, given he starts out as your typical soccer player with your trademark main character edgy wardrobe. The initial cutscene with the fall of Zanarkand to this very day impresses me. The destruction was so cool to watch. Final Fantasy X has one of my favorite battle systems, Conditional Turn-Based Battle, which, in short, is a fancy way for saying you have a turn order and the traditional active turn-based gauge being static, showing who is coming up in the turn order, the turn order also being manipulated via actions or magic. I have always loved turn-based games. I like to plan my attacks rather than being caught in visceral combat, where iframes and learning bosses' attack patterns are the path to victory. That is not saying I dislike action games either, I just have a preference. Final Fantasy X also had a story that I really felt engaged by. It starts out as a pilgrimage and ends up being something even more. The final boss theme? Holy hell, it rocks. Pun intended. If I could wipe my memory clean and play that game again, I would be delighted. It holds a very special place in my heart. I'm going to be cliché and be extremely obvious by saying, yeah, Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorites. Sure, there are reservations why the story here is to be desired in some cases. I have heard them all, but I applaud this game for doing something extremely innovative at the time. Final Fantasy VII came out in 1997. It was my second Final Fantasy, and I played it in 2002. It was one of the very first games to have 3D polygons. However, with some drawbacks.
Oh my goodness!
The game was also a departure from the traditional formula of Magitech/high fantasy, in preference for a more modern, steampunk world. And it really was more modern. Squaresoft really pushed the boundaries with this one, and they really did. Final Fantasy VII had an engaging system called the materia system. It allowed you to slot materia into your weapon to give yourself magic and allowed you to freely customize your party as you saw fit. The materia system inspired games like Trails in the Sky, or the Trails series, to have a system akin to materia. Anyway, back to the story. I know many individuals who have said they cried at a certain point in the story. To have that many sad people, that says things. It was impactful. This game slapped. Outside of the story, the game featured a memorable soundtrack. I don't know anyone who said the battle theme wasn't good. That also says things. Note, if you want to play the original Final Fantasy VII with some voice acting, consider playing the Echo S7 mod. It is a well done mod, and it is built with a lot of care and passion for the original. With the Final Fantasy VII Remake project coming to a close soon, I am excited to see where this finale goes. Final Fantasy XII. Oh, Ivalice is something else. I have an extremely soft spot for it. The world is so unique, and it is filled to the brim with political intrigue. I really like the story of 12, with it being politically driven and feeling similar to Star Wars. For this title, the battle system went from turn-based, like in Final Fantasy X, to something very MMO-like. You could say Final Fantasy XII system is an MMO light. The Gambit system is something I really like. As someone with a background in software development, I really digged this system. Have you ever heard of Edison robots? They are programmable robots that are often found in schools. The Gambit system feels like that. You can program your team to react to certain situations, which can be considered as a list of if statements. Gambits to be fancy. If X situation meets Y criteria, then do that thing. I love this stuff. I love it so much. Aside from combat, in the recent re-releases, you have free control to give anyone any class you want. It is very customizable. You want Vaughn to be a white mage? Sure, why not? You want Pinella to be a ninja or Shikari? You can do that too. You can mix and swap classes whenever you want. It is very flexible. Final Fantasy XII also has a banger soundtrack. It has all of the Ivalice charm. If you have not played this one, especially the Zodiacage, you really should check this game out. I really gambled whether or not I wanted to place this one on the list. Trust me, I really did. Choosing Final Fantasy VII again feels like cheating, and it could be seen that way. Rebirth, in particular, wins me over as one of my favorites because it took an already successful formula from the Midgar section of the remake project, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then dialed it up to 11. It retains all of the fun materia customization from the original. You have complete control of how you want to gear your party, with very little sections where you are separated, which is very, very nice. Each location is beautifully handcrafted, featuring their own soundtrack. And Junon? Oh my god, this place is chef's kiss. The scale of the game is huge, and for an Unreal Engine game, it runs really well, with some issues here and there. Gaia, the world of Final Fantasy VII, feels alive. Rebirth also features a very fun card game called Queen's Blood. It is so fun, at least I think so. This is probably the closest we can get to Triple Triad without making Triple Triad again. I have very little nitpicks for this one. Sure, some content is repeated, Ubisoft Towers, but at least it's not too extreme. Rebirth executes the world really well. I enjoyed the exploration in this one, and the soundtrack, it's just so good. Listen, I told you about this one in the beginning of the video, I know, but Tactics, being a spin-off title, has a story that trumps a very large majority of Final Fantasy games. This game is incredible. With the recent remaster or re-release, the Ivalice Chronicles, this game is getting even more traction. I just hope a sequel will come out someday. Let me hope. Please just let me hope. I have spoken to some individuals who have said they did not like Tactics, and I find the opinions of it being too boring, given it is an isometric tactics game, to be valid. But I humbly disagree. Final Fantasy Tactics is a Final Fantasy game through and through. There is a turn order, while not being immediately visible if you're playing the original, and you execute actions when it is your turn. It, in some ways, is similar to Conditional Turn-Based in Final Fantasy X, before it was a thing, but it is on a grid. There are standard Final Fantasy magics: Fire, Vira, Viraga, Cure, Cura, Curaga, Haste, Stop, and even items like Phoenix Down. There are even chocobos! One of the best things about Final Fantasy Tactics, aside from the story, is the job system. In Tactics, there are over 20 jobs, and each job feels unique. You have cross-classing, job identity, and freedom to do whatever you want. It is magical. The closest game to reach this level of customization is Fire Emblem Awakening. I know, that's not even a Final Fantasy game, let alone a Square Enix game. But it says how little care this genre really gets. In the recent re-release of Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, Square Enix went and added full voice acting. They did not have to. I would have bought it anyway. But adding it makes it feel even more alive. The story also is much easier to follow as a result. If you like tactics games like Tactics Ogre, XCOM, or even Fire Emblem, do not pass this one up. At the current asking price of $50, it can feel pretty pricey, but you can easily squeeze 100 hours out of the game, especially if you like making builds. Final Fantasy Tactics is by far my favorite Final Fantasy game, hands down. That's 5 of my favorite Final Fantasy games, one of which not being a mainline title. Squareenix has had a rough patch lately regarding the Final Fantasy brand. I truly believe they could get themselves out of it, but with some growing pains. Final Fantasy is a brand that will continue to grow with age. Sure, there will be highs and lows, but they always get something right with each release, even if the game mostly sucked. Final Fantasy 15. Now, if you are wondering, why is Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IX not on this list? I have a simple answer. I can't say whether I like or hate them, because I have not played those games yet. I was hoping for an HD 2D remake of Final Fantasy VI. I know, tall ask, but I can die wishing for it. Final Fantasy IX also has the rumored remake on the horizon, which is my only reason for waiting. I'm almost too impatient and may start it anyway. Who the heck knows? I'm just too impulsive these days. Now, to further business. I am finishing up Ghost of Yotei, and I gotta say, I love this game. Just wait a little longer and a full review will be out shortly. Have you checked out my recent video? 5 RPG and JRPG stories that hit your heart? You really should. Sometimes there are games that just hit you straight in the chest, especially unprepared. Link to the video is on screen. Before you go, please like and subscribe so you do not miss any future content. Odin here. Have a Zantetsuken day. Peace out.